Hello and welcome to the latest in our Digital Dialogue series. Throughout these sessions we speak with tech leaders, CEOs, founders and others who are leading the tech sector in the UK. It's a great chance to find out a little bit more about them, their company and what they're doing. We have a thriving and innovative tech sector in the UK, and it's essential that we speak to each other to collaborate and understand more about our tech sector. And that's what these digital dialogues do. So I hope you enjoy today's session.
Sam, thank you so much for being able to join us today. Obviously, we're going to have a little bit of a chat about the tech sector, but I want to start with talking about yourself. What first got you into tech? What was the appeal for you?
So it actually started way back when I was a little kid. I think I was about 10 or 11. My dad bought the first family PC, and I convinced him to buy me a PC magazine that came with a CD-ROM. And I was messing about with the CD-ROM. It had some really interesting interactive content on it. And I discovered that you could right-click and view source in Internet Explorer. And I just found this world of stuff that you could mess with. Started from there, I started tinkering with HTML, taught myself how to do it, and just started building simple things, and it just snowballed from there.
Just playing about, and that inspired you?
Yep.
Absolutely. And then in terms of going into work and the workplace, how did you find that entering the tech sector and starting your own company as well?
It was an interesting transition, actually, because I started life out as a trainee accountant. So at heart, I'm a frustrated bean counter. And my first job was to run payroll for 300 and odd shop staff. And I was sitting there thinking, I don't want to be doing this every week. And so the first thing I built was an automated spreadsheet that did all the calculations for me. And I got in quite a lot of trouble for that, because apparently I wasn't supposed to be coding. I was supposed to be doing my job. I didn't last that long at that job. I moved on to another job working in the energy sector. And again, my initial job was to recommend telecoms tariffs to companies to save them money. And again, I was wading through all these bills thinking, I can't be bothered doing all this. So I wrote some software to do it in my own spare time. Eventually, that got me into the energy trading world. I ended up building what I believe was the first energy trading system to be used outside of the big four trading houses. And I think it's still in use today, with about 2 billion of energy going through it. And at that point, I kind of had this fork in my career. Do I want to stay in energy, or do I want to go down the software route? And I picked the software route. And that's where things started. And did a few different roles in corporates. And I kind of came to the point where my interest was always in the business problem more so than the technical solution. And I more and more was finding myself bridging the gap between what businesses needed and what the IT team could deliver. And it just seemed like the natural next step to go and start my own company. Initially, we started doing consultancy, then we specialized in kind of high performance, high traffic systems. And now we're in a kind of consultancy-led software development phase.
So tell me a bit more about 𝗃𝗏𝗴𝗶 then, where you're based, staff, what you do.
Yeah, so there's a team of about 20 of us. Our HQ is based down in Cornwall. So I live quite far west, between St. Ives and St. Michael's Mount. So it's a very pretty part of the world. And the majority of our team are based in the area, but we're just spinning up a new office just outside London as more and more of our clients are based here. The way we describe ourselves is that we bring together strategy, design, and software development to help ambitious businesses reach their goals. And that means that essentially we build digital products, platforms, complex sites, and internal systems for businesses. But we specialize in working with businesses that are either going through a transformation or have gone through a transformation but need that ongoing support to sustain the pace of delivery.
And do companies set out for that pace? Because often it can be really quite fast paced for them. It can be quite frustrating as well for them. Do you find that they're ready for that journey?
That's an interesting question. I think we see a mix. We through our marketing and through our positioning, we do our best to attract people who want that pace. So for us, the technical side of the transformation is almost secondary. The first part that needs to be got right is the cultural one. And we found, particularly through lockdown, we found that the clients that we have that close cultural alignment with are the ones that consistently make for easier projects and more transformative results. But definitely not every client is ready for pace. I think a lot of clients think they're ready for pace, but when they see what real pace can look like, particularly when you get into rapid prototyping, it becomes scary for them.
Absolutely. And you mentioned there you're based in the southwest of England, down in Cornwall, beautiful part of the world as well, but also a bit more remote from what people might think of as the traditional tech sector and around London and the southeast. Has that presented challenges for the business, or actually present big opportunities for you?
I think it's a mix of both, to be honest. I think we definitely have challenges. I think historically, the vast majority of the younger talent pool have assumed that they needed to move further up the line or move out of the county in order to get the opportunities that they need to build their careers. So we're doing a lot of work with the local authority, with education, to try and shift that. They've actually asked me to go and teach at one of the degree courses, a particular module on getting students ready for the real world. So there's definitely a cultural shift that's happening there. On the flip side, I think it was the Tech Nation report last year showed Cornwall as one of the fastest growing tech sectors in the UK. So that there's definitely things happening. There's some really exciting things happening. But like the rest of the country, talent is an ongoing challenge.
Absolutely. I want to come back and revisit that in a moment or two. But sticking with you, what does as MD of 𝗃𝗶𝗴𝗶𝗶, what does a normal day look like for Sam?
So I can now actually answer this. I think if you'd asked me a couple of years ago, I think I would have said I don't have a normal day. But I think we're starting to see the fruits of our strategy paying off. So I've been very fortunate that over the past couple of years, I've moved further and further away from day-to-day delivery and more towards the growth of the business. So typically, my days tend to start about 6:30. We've got 3 kids, so that the hour and a half between 6:30 and 8 is pretty hectic. So I'm relatively constrained to normal office hours at the moment. If it's a Monday, it's all about setting the team up for the week ahead. So it's check-ins, and we have a weekly business update and so on. Most of the rest of the week is either spent meeting new people. I set myself a target of meeting at least 50 new people each month. Or if it's a Friday, it's more about tidying up and making sure I've followed through on all the things I've promised to do to all those people that I've met.
I suppose all those people who are watching and listening to this, there'll be some of those new people that you're meeting as well, and new connections, so they can get in touch.
Definitely. I love meeting people. I think it's probably the best thing about my job is the amount of new people that I get to meet. Don't get me wrong, sometimes we end up working together, which is a great added bonus, but actually the broadening of perspectives that happens through hearing from peers, people in different sectors or people in different industry is phenomenal.
I was going to ask you about what the most exciting part of your job is, but I think you've kind of answered it there. And actually, so often I speak with people and they say, this business isn't about tech, it's about people. It's about cultures and journeys and what they want to do. Is that something that you find at 𝗃𝗶𝗴𝗶 when you're working with your team, but also working with your clients as well?
Definitely. So we have a saying in the business that people buy off people. And interestingly, the guy who taught me that saying almost 20 years ago referred me to a lead who I met with this morning. That's how far these people-to-people connections can go. And I think particularly working in transformation and kind of complex digital projects, there's people's careers on the line here. Our clients are trusting us with the future of their role, sometimes with the future of their organization. And that's why it's so great to meet people who share the same values, the same ethos, and even the same view of what technology can do. I find it energizing as well as anything else.
And you were saying there about somebody taught you that phrase before. If you could go back and think, who inspired you when you were going into business and going into the tech sector?
I've thought about this one a lot, and I don't think it's the answer you're expecting. So I grew up in Italy, so it had to be somebody Italian. And when I was a kid, I still love reading, but I used to read an awful lot. And I remember reading this book on Leonardo da Vinci. The amount of innovation that came out of that guy's head in everything from drawing technique through to engineering, through to battlefield strategies, et cetera, et cetera. And it's something that's always stuck in my mind, just how smart and how practical his knowledge was. I think I'd have to say Leonardo da Vinci.
There's a great example there. And actually, a really fine example of seeing how things cut across different sectors as well. That innovation, it's not just restricted to one area either. But I have to ask as well, because I always ask people this. You do your job, you sound really passionate about it, you sound like you love your job. But if you could do any other job in the world, what would that job be?
So I think I struggle to give you just one answer to this one. I think it would have to be something to do with wiring things up and home automation. I love electricity and how you can automate and power things. So it would be something in that sphere.
So if something breaks in the house, do you find yourself fiddling with it and opening it up to have a look?
Yep. So yesterday's achievement, I was able to fix our Sage coffee machine. And took it apart. It was very unsafe. Probably shouldn't be listening to this. Managed to get it running with the back off. So water and electricity, which of course don't mix. Don't try this at home. Figured out the problem, replaced the part. Thank you, Amazon. And now it works. And it works better than it did before.
And I know how important coffee is to an Italian as well. So that sounds essential, that work. And just thinking, reflecting back as well, if you could look back and give your 16-year-old self some advice, what would it be?
I think it would be to know your worth. I think it's really easy, particularly when you're starting out in tech. There's so much to learn, and there are so many people who know so much more than you do. And if you only ever measure your worth in terms of what you know, then invariably there's going to be somebody who knows more than you. But if you can learn to measure your worth in terms of how you think, the perspective you bring, and what you as an individual can do that no one else can do, all of a sudden you put yourself in a very different position. And I can pinpoint in my career that the moment that I realized that I was actually quite good at some of these things, and I started leveraging those skills and those abilities, and my career started to develop in a direction that I never would have expected.
And you were talking about recruiting talent, and actually we know that we need more people, not just young people, but everybody from all walks of life getting into the tech sector. Do you think that we do enough of that in schools, of telling kids about their worth and understanding what they can do, and not just they're going to have one job and that's your life? Actually, you're going to have a varied career here.
How long have we got? I've got lots of opinions on this. No, in a nutshell, I don't think we do enough. I think the education system is desperately trying to adapt to a world that's very different from what it was designed for. My wife, our people and culture director, is a local enterprise ambassador for the council. So she actually works with careers leads in schools to help exactly this point. Your career might be a collection of different roles that encompasses a certain set of skills. And I think we need to focus much more on teaching young people how to think rather than how to memorize information from a textbook.
Is that something you take working with your team as well? You try and instill that in them?
We do, yeah. So this year particularly, we've made some changes to how we run. We call it our progress framework, so the way we help people develop in their role. So we made some changes specifically geared around helping people develop. And interestingly, the focus, technical skills are important, but the focus for us is actually on that innovation thinking. How do we get people to think differently about the problems that we have in front of us?
Absolutely, yeah. And I want to sort of take the conversation to have a little bit of a look at the tech sector in the UK as well. As challenging times economically at the moment. We know that that's tough for businesses as well, and people looking at different pieces of work, and where that is going to take the UK economy. You were thinking about tech innovations or areas of tech. What do you think might be some of the most exciting or bits to take note of over the next 10 to 20 years?
Well, I think we're probably all thinking about ChatGPT at the moment. I think ChatGPT has done a great job of bringing out into the open something that's existed kind of in the background for quite some time. But I think AI, and specifically how we as tech leaders can use AI to automate some of the lower value stuff that we do, is going to be the future of the sector. I genuinely believe that AI will never replace humans. But if I look at an average working day for the developers who work at 𝗃𝗏𝗏𝗏, there's probably at least 40% of that stuff that's repetitive and could be either removed or drastically reduced by some form of AI technology. we're a little way off, but I think that's the next frontier.
That's the direction of travel where it's going as well. And actually big opportunities to improve productivity as well for, not just your business, but thinking locally in the southwest of England too.
I saw this great thing on LinkedIn. It said that AI won't take your job, but someone who now knows how to use AI might. And I think that's the key thing that we all need to get our heads around.
Yeah, absolutely. And what do you see as some of the big challenges then for our sector? And challenges maybe locally and challenges more broadly?
I think across the UK, I think talent availability is a real issue. I think we're starting to see the market respond to the kind of supply and demand adjust a little bit. There's been a lot of changes to workforces in some of the large tech employers. And I think expectations are realigning somewhere closer to normal. But I do think talent shortages are only going to get worse for the next few years. Hopefully, with some changes to the immigration or visa systems, we can kind of address that a little bit. Secondly, to the talent shortages, I think there's a piece around productivity, particularly regional productivity. Whichever data set you choose to look at, if you strip out London and the Southeast, all of a sudden the numbers look very, very different. So I think we're talking a lot about leveling up at the moment. I think that the challenge is laid down to us as regional tech employers to level up and to do our part to increase productivity, increase output, and increase the value that we add.
And is that about partnership? It's not just the private sector and companies like yours who need to do that, but it's actually thinking about how you work with local councils, elected mayors, devolved government, policy in action, almost.
Yeah, I think it's always tricky to kind of sort of set a foot into the political arena on these things, isn't it? But I think policy in action just about sums it up. I think where you see policy being designed in conjunction with the private sector, who effectively most of the time bring that policy to life, you start to see some real results. Locally, we've seen some really interesting things happening with procurement, for example. We're trying to train the next generation of tech talent, and local government organizations have quite a pot of projects that would be useful to train those people on. And all of a sudden you can join forces, both can contribute something, and you start to see what is potential transformative outcome. But it does require that partnership.
Thank you. And just before we close, Sam, again, a question that I love asking our tech leaders as well. What's the one bit of technology that you just couldn't live without, the bit that you need every day?
Oh, I do use tech a lot. I think my current favorite is my 𝗪𝗏𝗶𝗶𝗏. It's a little pad that you can use as a notepad, but writing on it is so good, and it means that I'm not losing bits of paper.
Which we all do. You find, even in tech, you find that bit that you put it on down a bit of paper, and you think, "Where the hell have I put that?"
Yeah, I've tried everything. I'm just a scribbler at heart.
Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today. Really appreciated. If you want to know more about Sam's company, about Sam and 𝗃𝗏𝗏𝗃𝗏𝗏, please check out the details below that are posted there. Sam, thank you.
Thank you, Matt.